Alright, thanks for joining me for the little cooking class today. We're going to be making green chili cornbread. It's a super versatile recipe. It happens to be gluten-free for all my little gluten-free friends that are concerned with that because we are using cornmeal. It has no flour at all in it. And it can be, which it's going to be for us today, dairy-free for those of you who have lactose intolerance. But to get us started, we are going to use a big, this I think is, 8-cup measuring cup. I like this because it has a little spigot spout here and it makes it a whole lot easier to pour, especially, I'm going to show you my little portion control trick, but especially for that. So if you don't have a big 8-cup one, get one. It makes this recipe a lot easier than dealing with a big mixing bowl. It just pours a lot easier. My next tip is start with the milk. Now, the recipe actually calls for buttermilk, non-fat buttermilk, but I don't have buttermilk. And then I was going to make buttermilk, which you can totally do by mixing 2 tablespoons of distilled vinegar into regular milk. It can be fat-free milk, and it makes buttermilk. Well, I don't have milk because we don't do milk here, but I do have, ta-da, unsweetened, plain, not vanilla, plain almond milk. So, super versatile. You can make this any which way you want. We're going to use almond milk today, which just so happens to be less calories anyway, so win for us. But if you will start, and you need 2 cups, and because this bowl is also your measuring cup, guess what you're not doing? Having to wash dishes later. I hate washing dishes. Kills me. So if I can just take a step out, I'm going to do it. This helps with that. Do the liquid first. Now, next you're going to add the eggs. And the reason you do the liquid first is because if you put anything else in there before you add your liquid, the measure's not going to work right. Yes? Makes sense? Perfect. Duck eggs. Y'all, if you don't have ducks, or if you can go to your farmer's market and find duck eggs, do it. They make anything that you bake so much better. They're richer. They're super good for you. We actually do have ducks and chickens, so I'm blessed with getting duck eggs every day. And that's what I'm going to use in this recipe, but any old chicken egg will work too. Crack it on a flat surface. If you crack it on the edge of the bowl, you're going to run the risk of getting shells into your mixture, whatever that's going to be. So if you crack it on a flat surface, it cracks a whole lot better and you don't get any shells. Perfect. You want 3 eggs. Alright, now, sorry, I don't know what happened to my towel. Okay, so we've got our eggs. Now, just to help yourself out a little bit, you can kind of go ahead and break that yolk up just a tad in here, and that will help you later down the road to make sure that your eggs get whisked in really well. This recipe, there's no rhyme or reason. It's not going to mess up if you don't put it in a certain order. It all works perfectly great. Good to know. We're going to use cornmeal. This is my absolute favorite brand of cornmeal. 2 reasons. 1, it tastes really good. And 2, it's not as processed as some of your cheaper brands. And cheap, I don't necessarily mean price point, although this one's not terribly expensive. It may be a couple cents more, but it's not just your really generic, highly processed cornmeal and they strip it down and enrich it. This one is stone ground whole grain yellow corn. I like that. It has no preservatives or anything in it, and it's made in Texas. Yeehaw. So this is the one I always buy and find at any grocery store. You want 2 cups of that. Now, for all of you just freaked out because I used a wet measuring cup to put my dry ingredients in there, I know, but it's close enough. That's how forgiving this recipe is. Okay, so next you're going to need a teaspoon of kosher salt. Kosher salt, not any other kind of salt. It's got the least amount of sodium, as we say over and over in every little video in class. And we're going to use a teaspoon of baking soda. I'm not sifting anything, I'm just adding that stuff right in there. And we're going to use paprika. Now, this is just your sweet paprika. If you don't want to put that in there, you don't have to, but I think it adds a nice little flavor and something a little unexpected. And this is kind of my, Mexican-y savory cornbread recipe that I serve with chili. So this has green chilies in it, which we're going to put in there. Now you can certainly roast your own, and during Hatch green chili season, they roast them at the grocery store for you, and you can certainly do that. But they're not all year round. So you can buy this in the frozen section at any grocery store. There's mild and there's hot. This one happens to be mild. And you can thaw it out and use it and freeze it and thaw it and freeze it and thaw it and freeze it and thaw it and freeze it as many times as you want. It's perfectly okay. And I do that all the time. So I didn't obviously use it all, so guess what I did? Threw it in the freezer and I thawed it back out. This is probably going to take about the whole thing. This is 1/3 of a cup, and I don't have a whole lot left, right? So what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm just going to dump it in there. It's going to be fine. All right, so totally done with that. Now, we did our paprika, we did yep, perfect. Now we're back into the sugar. Okay, let's talk. We're gonna put a little sugar in here because we're in the South. And you gotta have sweet cornbread. If you're not having sweet cornbread, there's something wrong with you, and you need to go back to your roots or marry a Southerner. So you gotta have your sweet cornbread. Now this is not brown sugar. I know it looks brown because it is sugar in the raw. It's raw sugar. This is Florida Crystal's brand, but the raw brand's fine, whatever works for you. As far as organic goes, I am a stickler on organic, some items, like corn is one. But sugar, I normally am not a stickler about. The reason I do have it is because my husband puts sugar in his coffee every morning. So my rule is, if it is a staple in your diet, think about going organic if you can afford that. For things like sugar, which should not be a staple in most people's diet, unless it's my husband and he drinks coffee, pick your battles, then I'm going to go ahead and buy him an organic sugar because it's something that's in his system continuously. So he doesn't use a lot of it. I'm okay with that. I have it. I'm going to use it in here. Tastes the same. It's just not bleached and it's processed, right? Okay, so this recipe calls for, you might help me count, 5 to 7 tablespoons of sugar. Now, I know you guys are freaking out because that sounds like a whole bunch of sugar. But if you put it in perspective, I think that's 5. I don't know. I lost count. 6? Oh, good. See my video girl. She counts for me. Okay. Thanks, Mary. So if you put it in perspective, this is spread out. You're not going to eat the whole pan of cornbread. I hope you don't eat the whole pan of cornbread. So you're not getting 7 tablespoons of sugar. It is spread out into 14 servings. So really you're getting about 1 teaspoon of sugar, which is 15 calories. Doesn't seem quite so dramatic when you look at it like that. Honey, on the other hand, I know all of you are thinking she should be using honey or agave nectar or something like that because it's more natural. Guys, what it boils down to, yes, it's more natural, but sugar is as natural as agave nectar, not honey. Honey comes out like honey, but agave nectar comes out of agave plant. If you've never seen it, it's like this big prickly cactus looking thing. So it has to be processed, just like sugar cane has to be processed. Just like stevia cane is a leaf, it has to be processed to make it look like that, right? But here's the kicker. It's still going to react the same as sugar in your system, and there's more calories in that. 60 calories for a tablespoon of honey, 45 for sugar. So if you like the flavor of honey in your cornbread, go for it, but realize that your calorie count's going to be higher anyway. More calories, you're going to put weight on. I don't care where the source is coming from. So we have got, do we have everything in here? I think we kind of almost do. So we've got our wet and dry ingredients. The only thing we're missing at this point is our corn. Now, yes, this looks like a real soupy batter, and that's okay. It still works. I promise it works. So you're going to just make sure that everything, mainly the eggs, are really broken up. You don't want a big yolk in the center of your cornbread, right? So make sure that everything is mixed up really well, first of all, and make sure you don't have any cornmeal lumps in there. that are going to be all dry and do weird things in your batter, right? Now you do have the green chilies, and that is okay, but I'm just going to make sure these are mixed. Now I'm not using a blender or a whisk. I'm just using one of these little spoonula thingies, and that is okay. We're going to grab the corn. So I'm using frozen corn, and I'm not going to thaw it out. I'm just going to use frozen corn. Now, like I said, I am picky about organic corn because corn is one of the most genetically modified foods on the planet after soy, which you shouldn't eat anyway. So I am going to buy organic sweet corn, and make sure I'm right side up here. It looks like this. It's in the freezer section. The ingredients is organic sweet corn. So no sugars, no preservatives, no fillers or colors or any of that kind of stuff. And you're going to use a cup. And it's frozen, and it works just fine and dandy. And I want to be sure that I put my dry in there before I put my wet in there. Otherwise, my cornmeal would have stuck to the deal, right? So it's kind of about layering. So in respect to the order of ingredients, that part, just so you're not wasting time washing things, that part is, I guess, important if you don't want to wash dishes, which I never want to wash dishes. So you're just going to mix that up. That's it. Easy peasy batter. Now, you've got two options. You can bake that off, or you can stick it in the refrigerator, just put plastic wrap over it. And what I do with this nifty little spigot, I go ahead and lay it here, and your plastic wrap will wrap around, and you don't have to wash this. You can keep it for later. So when you bake it off, you can scrape out every last little yummy bit and make sure you don't waste anything. But save it and bake it off later. So if you're having company, if I'm planning on company, I may make my cornbread a day ahead, but most of the time I want it fresh. So I will do this, and I have the batter at least ready, and I'll just stick it in the fridge, and then I can bake it off when it's done. Now, portion control. These are awesome. I found these at the grocery store years ago. And there's different sizes, but they're parchment paper muffin cups. So you don't have to spray oil at all, and you can use your regular old muffin tins, and it won't stick. And you can portion control yourself if you're like, well, Kim, I'm going to eat half the cornbread. So portion control, make little cornbread muffins. You can actually just bake off however many you want at a time, okay? And you don't have to bake all of it, so you can really portion yourself out that way and just bake 2 at a time or something like that. So that's an option. It's in the baking aisle. Or you can get your iron, which cornmeal is high in iron, so if that's a concern for you and you need to add some iron into your diet, cornmeal is a good way to do it. But also, just cooking in a cast iron skillet is another great way to get your iron. We're going to spray this little baby with a little bit of cooking spray. Now this is the unrefined, cold pressed, extra virgin coconut oil cooking spray. It's going to heat up. It's not going to taste like coconut. It's a good nutritious spray. I like this particular brand. I did spray my container there, and I'm going to use a paper towel and make sure that it is greased all at the sides and everything, but it's not just swimming in oil either, okay? So this is also how you season your iron skillets as well. There's a whole little thing, I think it's on my Facebook page, about how to season your cast iron skillets. So look that up. But we greased it. Now you're going to add a little bit of cornmeal to the bottom here, and we're going to come over here and we're just going to shake it around just like you would do a cake, right? Except you're using flour when you do the cake. Well, we don't want to use flour, especially my little gluten-free babies. So we want to use what's in it, which is cornmeal. You wouldn't want to put cornmeal to grease your cake pan, so you don't want to do the opposite either. Tap it out. Perfect. All right. Now we are going to cook this whole thing off, so I'm not going to portion it out. We're going to use some self-control. Plus we're going to take a picture later. It's prettier. So we're going to just pour this all in there. Now my corn right there wasn't quite broken up, still a little frozen chunk, so I'll just break it up right in the pan. Very forgiving recipe, just saying. Okay. And I love these little spatula things because they get every little yummy bit out. I don't like to waste anything. So, gravy. Alright, now it's ready to bake off. We've got our oven, 450. I'm going to set it in here. Now this bakes really pretty quick, but I'm going to go ahead and set my timer because we're making a bunch of videos today. So our attention isn't where it should be. Plus it doesn't matter if I'm making videos or not. My attention's never on what's cooking in the oven. I tend to burn it. So I am going to set my timer for 15 minutes and it's going to be starting to get golden brown on top. I'm going to go ahead and cover that with some tin foil just because my oven tends to do that. It browns it on top before it's really cooked all the way through. I know that about my oven. Learn your oven. If I can say anything to you, learn your oven. But I'm going to put a little foil so it cooks the last 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and it doesn't get super brown on top. Then I'm going to peel it out, take the foil off, and I'm going to use just a teaspoon of this particular butter. This is grass-fed, it's really good, and I'm just going to rub it over the top of the cornbread just a little bit. It's probably not even going to use the whole teaspoon, just to make it shiny and pretty. And that is it, and then I'll let it cool on the counter. Cool, and that is the green chili cornbread. Like I said, you can serve that with chili or stew. It's very yummy. If you wanted to use hot chilies, you could spice it up a bit and do that. Or just eat it plain, leave the chilies out. Make it the way you like it, and it will be perfect. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm hoping that you enjoy cooking with me, because I love cooking with y'all. So follow me on Facebook and YouTube, and buy my cookbook if you want more great healthy recipes, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.